Wisdom. It's an incredibly valuable asset. Some would say more precious than gold. It's attractive, appealing, admirable. Conversely, a lack of wisdom is the basis of immaturity, blind spots, and bad decisions. Wisdom. It can be gained over time, but it can't be rushed. But wisdom can be shared. That's precisely what we are here to do right now. Today, we are here to hack wisdom, to distill it, to understand it, and to process it. Why? To get better at life. Welcome to The Main Thing. This is your new 9-minute podcast. I'm your host, Skip Linneberg, and I've set out to interview the wisest people I know. We'll see what we can learn from each one when they're faced with an incredibly difficult, soul-piercing question. Welcome to the Main Thing podcast. I'm your host, Skip Linneberg, coming to you today with another special delivery of wisdom. A warm welcome to first-time listeners. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a single new episode. A shout out of gratitude to my subscribers. Thank you for joining us for each and every show. Won't you consider sharing this show with someone you care about? You can share the web link for this episode or just point them to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or Google Podcasts where they can find us by our show title. Help them get better at life. And after all, wisdom is meant to be shared. Look for us on all your favorite social platforms by our show handle, the @symbol, The Main Thing Pod. Stay connected so you can see what's happening, get extra insights, and share your feedback. In the way of feedback, if you do have suggestions or ideas to share with us, another great way to share those is with an email to info@themainthingpodcast.com. So let us know what you're thinking or if you'd like to recommend a future guest for the show. A sincere thank you to our returning patron, Bill from Tennessee. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so very much. Folks like you help to keep this pipeline of wisdom flowing. Our special guest today is a wise, insightful, and gifted person. Max Knapp is a born and raised West Virginian who prides himself on his curiosity and attributes his open-mindedness to the perspective he gained from his time spent outside of West Virginia. Upon receiving his graduate degree, Max spent the first couple years of his career working as an analyst on Wall Street, helping advise large-scale businesses on mergers and acquisitions. Fast forward to late 2016, Max decided to return to West Virginia with his newly acquired skill set in hopes of helping revitalize the place he's always called home. Over the last 6 years, Max has played a role in several business acquisitions himself and continues to help guide aspiring entrepreneurs with similar ambitions. Max co-founded the wealth management firm Blackbear Capital and works with individuals and institutions throughout West Virginia. Max currently lives in Charleston, West Virginia with his wife Kylie and young son Dexter. Max Knapp, welcome to the Main Thing podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Skip. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, Max, I wanted to ask you this question just to start off. In your estimation, what's the best part about being an entrepreneur today?
To me personally, the freedom, right?
There we go.
Being able to live the life the way that you want to live it. Right?
Absolutely.
And from a monetary standpoint, if you have ambition, if you want to earn a good living, you have that ability, right?
Sure.
You kind of eat what you kill and,
right.
and get out of it what you put into it. So I love that asset.
Yeah. Hey, listeners just heard that you worked on Wall Street as early part of your career. What was that like? Is it kind of like what we see in the movies?
I would say there's a mix of what you see in the movies. It's certainly not like the Wolf of Wall Street,
okay,
in terms of how crazy it is. But what is very similar is that the mentality of a lot of people that work on Wall Street is very much A-type personalities. Mm-hmm. And they give their lives to their job, right? These people do, and they're constantly trying to one-up their peers. It's not as much of a team approach as it is, hey, I'm the best, I deserve to be paid likewise. So that aspect of it is tough. For me, what I attribute my time spent on Wall Street is just the experience, right?
Sure.
Invaluable experience. And then moving back to West Virginia from putting in those 80-hour work weeks in New York, it's like time slows down, right? And that's a benefit for me.
Sure.
I certainly was not willing to give up my 20s and 30s in total pursuit of just making money.
Good
right?
for you.
Which is what Wall Street is. And like I said, I'm very thankful and blessed to have had the experience. But now that I'm back here in West Virginia, I get to live the lifestyle that I wish, and it's just not taxing like it was up there.
That's awesome. And you mentioned time. It's just it's the non-renewable resource.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, when we get older and we gain wisdom, we realize just how valuable time is.
That's right.
All right. So let's talk about the ritual of our show. We get to a point where we talk about how we're connected, Max. So let's talk about how you and I met. And if you'd like to start that story, I'll chime in with some color commentary.
Yeah. Well, I think the first time that we met in person, I was working on putting together an entrepreneurial group here in Charleston just to help build an ecosystem. And through that, I was building relationships with people that were very much like-minded. And a lot of it was cold outreach. And one of the questions that I asked them at the end, after I told them what I was trying to do, was, hey, is there anyone else here in the Charleston area that you would recommend I reach out to be part of this group? And probably a third of them came back with your name, saying that Skip should absolutely be involved, because we were looking for people that had a passion, that had the interest in being active in this realm. And so that's where I initially heard your name, and I reached out, and you actually did attend a meeting, and that's where I think we met for the first time.
Yeah. Right over. I'm pointing to the place where we were. Yeah, right across the street.
That's right.
Yeah. And then we have a mutual friend in Dr. David Clayman.
That's right.
Who might have been one of those people that mentioned my name to include in that group. But of course, Dr. Clayman appeared first here on episode 13, and we revisited his wisdom recently in episode 62. Just a great soul who is a mentor to me and a treasure for our community.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is one of a kind for sure.
Yeah. Let's be honest, it's not easy to ask for help or talk about money. Hey, it's Skip here, and many listeners like you continue to ask me, what do you need to continue to develop and build this show? Well, for context, it takes our team about 15 hours of work to produce each one of these packages of wisdom that we deliver to you in podcast form. Really, what we need is funding to cover our costs. So in response, I formed a site on the Patreon platform where you can elect to become a supporting patron of the Main Thing podcast. Now, there are 3 levels you might consider, ranging from $6 to $27 per month. It's all safe and secure, and you can explore the options at patreon.com/themainthingpodcast. Now, how will we use the funding? Funds provided by you and other patrons will be used to defray the costs of production, promotion, and our recurring technology expenses each month. In short, you will be helping to keep this pipeline of wisdom flowing. Thanks. Well, Max, it's a short format show, so we better get down to the business of why we're here. Max Knapp, what's the main thing you've learned so far in your lifetime?
Skip, the main thing I've learned in my lifetime so far is to not let the world's definition of success guide my own.
Don't let the world's definition of success guide our own. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's rich. Are you going to unpack that for us? I sure hope you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I can't speak for everyone else, but I've always been a very competitive person, and much of the time to the detriment of the things that are actually important in my life. I find myself chasing things.
Yeah.
And that's the worldly view of success. Success, as it's spoken in most contexts, is achievement-based. And what that means is it's on a sliding scale. It's a moving target. So if you could look back on your life, Skip, I bet there are countless instances where you'd say, man, if I could just do this, or if I just had this, I'd be happy. You know, maybe it's winning a sporting event as a child, or getting into a good college, getting a good job or promotion, buying a home. All of these are worthy pursuits. But in the end, they're not going to define your view as to whether or not you lived a successful life.
Sure.
Right. They're momentary fulfillment.
Man, I can definitely agree and validate that. Personally, you work for something, you get that starting job or a promotion, or you do something, and you're right. The feeling of that adrenaline is so fleeting. It lasts for less than a half hour.
That's right.
There's a story that I read this year. Berkshire Hathaway is a financial company that I respect. Their mutual fund hit a new total value of their total value, an all-time high. There was like this number that they were striving for, 500 something, maybe billion.
Right.
Okay. And they hit it. And they celebrated literally for 5 minutes. And then the message was, all right, everybody, let's get back to work. I mean, they achieved their vision and then they went right back to what they do.
That's right.
And
That's
back
exactly right.
to doing what they're good at.
Yeah, I've always said you shouldn't chase success. You should seek to live life successfully.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, success being a moving target, you're never going to hit it. You're never going to be happy. And again, it's just going to be in the rearview mirror once you do achieve that at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah. Are there things that you still have to push back on that you find yourself naturally drawn to chase, naturally inclined to chase certain things, and you're like, whoa, hold on, Max, that's not the way I want to live?
Well, again, that's why I mentioned it. It is very depending on your personality. And for me, I'm humbly speaking that I've always had that competitive drive, had ambition. And so a lot of times you'll see it here on my computer. I have a sticker that says be present. And that is because I get so asphyxiated with achieving something sometimes that I put it ahead of things that I shouldn't, right? You know, whether that be family or my faith, et cetera.
Yeah.
So yes, all the time I catch myself, and it's some things I can't turn off, even if it's in my head, right? I want to be present with family and be thinking about my time spent with them versus something that's out in the past that in the end really doesn't matter.
For sure. Yeah. Personal example I've shared with you and others, the podcast. This particular pursuit that we're doing right now is rich with metrics and feedback, numbers. And you can chase those and you can be a slave to those. What I've learned to do, that's not a good way to live, by the way. It's very frustrating and you'll be perpetually disappointed by your expectations that aren't met.
Yep.
So instead, to glance at those once or twice a month, peek in on them, go, okay, that looks pretty good.
Yep.
And then forget about it and just fulfill the mission of helping people get better at life, connect with wise people, and the rest takes care of itself.
Exactly.
I think, I see, and that's certainly my hope for going forward.
That's exactly right. And you hear the wise old tale, focus on money, you don't make it, focus on what's important, and the rest follows.
Yeah, yeah. So Max, going back to your main thing, don't let the world's definition of success define your own. When did that crystallize for you? Can you think back to when you locked onto that as your main thing and take us back to that chapter of your life? What was going on and what led you to that?
Sure. Well, first let me explain what I see success as and
and
how I define it.
Please.
You know, the definition is important of success is important because it guides our actions. You know, in the end, I believe that success is not an achievement, but rather how you've lived your life. So success to me is being able to spend every minute of my life the way that I want to spend it, right? And so starting my career on Wall Street where my life was my work, it was a sacrifice. And
Sure.
even moving forward with my personality and my ambition to do well, maybe professionally speaking, you know, I have a child, had a wife. I certainly don't want to say that having my child was kind of the cutoff point, but you know, over the last 5 years, I've tried to self-reflect on life and what it means. And money is not the meaning of life, and maybe that's where I was focusing professionally is building a company or doing well when in the end it's just not important. So I would say since I moved back to West Virginia in late 2016, I was really able to kind of focus on what's important in my head. Started to meditate. You know, it's just where you spend some time on self-reflection and understanding you personally and what is actually important. I've come to grips with it. I still struggle with it. Don't get me wrong. I still struggle with the ambitious side of my professional life. But just over the last 5 years, being back here in West Virginia, surrounding myself with family and loved ones who I very much respect and who kind of have that thought process about life, you know, and the true meaning of it. It's just been, again, it's a struggle I deal with daily, but it's one that I continue to work on.
I get it.
What I don't want to happen, and this is kind of the driver to my change, is for me to be 70 years old and to have a bunch of money, to have traveled a lot, et cetera, and to look back and say, man, I really regret this, right? Because my bank account really doesn't matter. You know, I gave up attending children's sporting events or hanging out with friends in the pursuit of something that just doesn't matter. And so that's kind of the driver for me. It's more of a fear, I guess you could say, right? And what I want to instill in my children from a young age is their own definition of success and not to be pushed by, you know, worldly pursuits.
live in a way that you're not going to have future regrets.
That's right.
Yeah, perfect. Max, I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom with us today, and it's just been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on here, Skip. It's an honor.
Wow, that goes by incredibly fast, doesn't it? Time flies when you're hacking wisdom. I hope you're left wanting more. Sync up with us again next time on The Main Thing for 9 more minutes of wisdom.